Welcome back to Court Candy, where the takes are sweet and the tea is strong. We're going to dive into the final trades of the year and what they mean for the playoff race. Then we're going to talk about the injury bug, which has taken a big bite out of the league, with the fever getting hit the hardest. And we'll close it all out with our top kids and teen sports movies for the ultimate nostalgia trip. Let's unwrap it. But before we do, let's dive into the candy bar. We test out candy and talk about something sweet in sports and the WNBA. Let's get into it. Say hi, Kate.
Hey Sloan, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Good. Happy to be here again.
Yeah, of course. So what do we have here at the candy bar?
So these are sour punch candies. I think these are our first officially sour candies of the pod. And they're just kind of gummies, I think. And there's strawberry, green apple, and blue raspberry. So which one are you going to go for?
I'm going to go with blue. So ever since I was a kid, I'd always go for the blue candy or the blue drink. So as an adult, I'll do the same. I have two. And again, when it's stuck together, it counts as one.
Counts as one. I'm going to go for red because it matches my hair.
This is good. Is this blue raspberry? Okay, it's really good. Has a hint of apple.
Maybe it was sitting next to the apple one. I'm trying apple one. They're little rigatonis. They're like little pasta noodles.
During the GSV and the Sparks game last night, they revealed this giant purple egg that just landed beside the Chase Center. And they made this whole segment about it during one of the breaks during the game. And they brought in a bird specialist who was talking about this giant egg. Actually, I don't even know. He looked really legit. I think he had a Tilly hat on, which makes him completely legit.
Yes.
And there were these purple feathers around it. And they're like, what could this be? I wonder. And they're like, well, let's take it to a safe space. And then they took the egg inside Chase Center and they put it into a giant nest. They put it on a camera so you can check in to the nest, which a lot of people do because people love watching birds hatch.
24/7 live stream of the big purple egg.
Yeah. So this is a whole mystery and they kept teasing it and they were like, tune in to our game against the Connecticut Sun on Monday where it's bird watchers night. And what they're going to do is give binoculars to everybody in the stadium, which is sponsored by DoorDash. And the whole thing just tickled my fancy. I keep saying that. Maybe we should put that on t-shirts later on for merch. But it tickled my fancy. And then you and I were just like, okay, well, this is amazing because one, immediately we thought mascot.
Absolutely.
Right? Mascot.
Yeah. Clearly a mascot reveal. It's their first season. They don't have a mascot yet.
No mascot yet. But then we're like, okay, what kind of a mascot? Clearly a bird. There's bird feathers, right? Okay, so we have no idea what it's going to be. And then we're like, what does a bird have anything to do with Valkyries? And you did some digging because you love nerding out on this stuff. And what did you discover?
So historically, both Valkyries and also Odin in general, in Norse mythology, the Valkyries serve Odin, who's the god of war. Those of us who've watched a bunch of Marvel will be familiar with this anyway. But Odin famously has two ravens of his own, and the Valkyries are also often associated with ravens. And when you watch a GSV game, there's this big epic, a home game, I should say.
Right.
There's this big epic opening film that they do, and you can see birds flying through the big purple clouds that they have. So I think it's going to be a raven. What do you think?
Well, I guess if it's a part of the mythology, it has to be a raven. But are ravens bad birds? When I think of a crow, I guess in pop culture, you're like, ooh, the crows are bad kind of a thing. Like, do you think of like the raven from that poem?
The poem?
Yes, the poem.
Yeah, I mean, I think ravens have long been associated with kind of spooky horror kind of stuff. I think they're really smart birds and they are very good at repeating things.
Right.
My initial gut was actually that it might be a flying horse, but you said
We already have a horse.
we already have a flying horse with Dallas.
Yeah.
So we can't do that. I think a raven it's the clear bet. I would be very shocked if it wasn't a raven.
Okay, this is what I think it's going to be. It's going to be purple raven. It's going to have the sass of Ellie, but it's not going to be a copycat of Ellie. I also think it's going to be gender neutral. I think the name is going to be Valky.
Cute. Okay. Yep. I have no sense of the name. There is one other bird that is
Okay.
associated with Valkyries, and occasionally swans can be associated with Valkyries. So I just think a raven makes a lot more sense. And also,
next.
swans don't really fly through the sky in the same way that ravens do. And I feel the Valkyries are very much a flying through the sky kind of imagery. So I think raven.
I'm not a bird biologist. Is that what you call them?
What do you call them?
I don't know. Anyways, but I feel like a swan doesn't really have a purpose like a raven would. So I think it's definitely going to be a raven and it's going to be badass. But what I love about this as somebody in marketing and business is that it's completely on brand and they're teasing it up and it is just an amazing way to reveal a mascot. I don't know what the other mascot reveals are like, but I think this is wonderful. And we talk about it all the time. GSV just has done an incredible job with launching their brand and their team.
Yep.
And, take note, Portland, Toronto, everybody else, GSV is just knocking out of the park.
They're doing such a good job. They're building so much hype with the team, with the audience.
This podcast will be released on Tuesday. The bird, the mascot, will be revealed tomorrow on Monday. So I guess we'll have to come back and talk about the bird or the mascot later on.
Future us
will know
how right or wrong we are.
So anyways, what was your sweet spot?
So my sweet spot this week is not directly basketball related, although there is a tangential connection to basketball. It is the release of the PWHL Barbie and the collaboration with Tim Hortons. So the PWHL is the Professional Women's Hockey League, and they have a collaboration with Barbie. They've released PWHL Barbie, and PWHL Barbie comes in two options. So there's a brunette and a blonde. So you can get one of two Barbies here. And blonde Barbie is, a white blonde hockey player. And brunette Barbie is darker skinned with dark brown hair. And I just love the representation. Barbie has, for literally decades, for over half a century, been so emblematic of opportunity for women. And even when she first came out, she really epitomized that kind of single woman lifestyle in a way that so many dolls did not. And so I just love Barbie's commitment to demonstrating to younger girls all the things that you can be. And I love the representation, the racial representation here in the dolls. It makes me think of, hockey, I think, is a pretty white sport, for lack of a better word. It's a cold weather sport.
We're Canadian, we can say it.
We're Canadian, and we know a lot of hockey players, and a lot of them are white. And you look at a player like Sarah Nurse, cousin of Kia Nurse, and she is mixed race, so not entirely white. And I just love to see players on the ice that are building the sport for themselves. I think it's great. So just really happy to see this. And then they also have a collaboration with Tim Hortons, which, if you are not Canadian, is a big Dunkin'-ish coffee store in Canada. And they have one location in Canada here in Toronto that is done up. Everything that is red is Barbie pink. So it's a bright pink Tim Hortons. And it's only up, I think, for a few more weeks this month, or maybe a few more days. I can't remember. But anyway, that is making me happy. Love the connection with Canadian sporting excellence in the Nurse family, which they truly are excellent, and they span a range of sports. So loved it. That was my sweet spot.
That's amazing. It's really cool to see a brand like Tim Hortons go above and beyond. They had, not to name drop, but they had the Justin Bieber,
Tim Biebs,
right? And they had the Ryan Reynolds scramble box. And then now they have the PWHL collab with Barbie, which is a huge legacy name. And the really cool thing about this too is that Tim Hortons has always been involved with sports. There's Timbits Soccer for kids, and they always have a charity that donates to children in sport, which is really cool. What I love about this certain activation is that it's brick and mortar, right? There's a lot of effort that goes into brick and mortar just versus a digital activation. So kudos to Tim Hortons and Barbie and PWHL for really making it an experience for people who wouldn't have known about this before.
Absolutely. So fun. So good. And the PWHL is heading into their third season this year, and just really excited for them and the successes that they're seeing. I went to a game in early 2025 and loved it. It was I think you were at a game in 2025 as well. It's just super inspiring to be there, and really happy for this.
So our last podcast, we talked about the trades that were going. We were talking about Dejanay Carrington being traded to the Minnesota Lynx. Now they have a super stacked team. And then we actually faced some more trades this past week. On August 5th, the Mystics traded their all-star guard, Brittany Sykes, to Seattle for veteran forward Alicia Clark and guard Zaya Cook, and Seattle's first-round pick in the 2026 WNBA draft. The trade helps the Storm make a huge push for the championship, which is really awesome because they honestly have a really good chance of getting there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Sykes
have a really
is a great addition.
Sykes is an amazing addition. And then also at the same time, the Mystics got another first-round draft pick in the 2026 WNBA draft.
Building up their team.
That's 3. That makes it 3 now, right? So I'm at a loss for words because it feels like the Washington Mystics is just collecting rookies like they're collecting Labubu's.
But that's not the end of it. Washington Mystics did not stop there.
On the day of the draft deadline, which is August 7th, Aaliyah Edwards was traded to the Connecticut Sun by the Washington Mystics. In return, they received J.C. Sheldon and a 2026 first round swap. So now the Mystics have 3 draft picks in the first round of the 2026 WNBA draft, and they have a swap in case they wanted to.
The option to swap.
The option to swap.
Is crazy.
Right? So I was surprised that Aaliyah Edwards was traded, but I wasn't so surprised because
earlier this
season, in June, I believe it was, the Mystics came out and they said that they had plans to trade Aaliyah Edwards. Right? Because she wasn't getting the minutes that she was used to. And I honestly had no idea as to why Aaliyah Edwards wasn't getting a lot of minutes, because she's an incredible, well-rounded player. She was one of the top picks in 2024.
And she slayed and unrivaled this year.
So I had no idea what they were doing, but I'm glad that they... Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's a great talent. I think she was underutilized on the team, and I'm excited for her to be somewhere where she can hopefully show her skills. And Connecticut is not soaring right now. And if she can step in and help steer the way a little bit for them, it's a team with a lot of good players, and they're just not really coming together yet. And I think there's an opportunity there for Aaliyah to get her minutes. And I'm, again, happy to see a Canadian player thrive. I love Aaliyah.
But secretly, I want her to come to the Toronto Tempo.
I know. I know we do.
Secretly, I hope that the Connecticut Sun don't protect Aaliyah Edwards, because I hope that she eventually ends up with the Toronto Tempo and makes history there.
Yeah, so this is part of the expansion draft process that they went through last year. Just quickly, for the creation of GSV, basically every team is allowed to protect a certain number of players. And I can't remember if it was 7 players or whatever, but they could protect a certain set of their players. Typically, they're starting 5 plus a handful from the bench. And then those non-protected players are up for the expansion drafts.
Right. And if Aaliyah Edwards comes to the Toronto Tempo, she's closer to home, right? From Kingston, Ontario.
Which is about 3.5 hours from Toronto.
Is it 3.5 hours? I think it's 2 hours. Let's make it shorter because
3 hours from Toronto.
We just want to lure her.
Yeah, it's. Okay. I mean, it's a quick drive.
It's a stone's throw away from Toronto, and there's unlimited ketchup chips. There's unlimited Tim Hortons. She would just be really happy to be with the Toronto Tempo. But either way, we're very happy for Aaliyah Edwards. Do you think that it was a fair trade?
A fair trade? I mean, what they're saying when I see that is that Aaliyah Edwards is very valuable, because they're trading for JC, who she's another sophomore player. She was also part of the 2024 draft class, and she has shown herself to be a useful player. So in terms of value, I think it shows that Aaliyah Edwards has a little extra value there, because they also got that swap opportunity. And what I'm seeing, and I know we talked about it a little bit on the channel, but not in this kind of formal podcast setting, we talked a little bit about what this looks like for the Washington Mystics, which is, in my opinion, a massive rebuild based on a bet around young talent.
So we'll see, but JC seems to be fitting in well. They just played the Dallas Wings this afternoon and beat them.
Yep. No, they're playing pretty well.
Yeah, the rookies are stepping up. So really happy for Edwards, and we really hope that she can shine if she stays with the Connecticut Sun.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers
crossed.
Maybe
don't shine too much so you can come to us. We only want the best for you, Aaliyah Edwards.
We're just being really selfish. Kate, we need to address the elephant in the room.
What's the elephant in the room?
What's the elephant? I got to the question way faster than you. The elephant is what's handicapping the WNBA right now, and that is injuries. It is the year of injuries, and you always wonder, why is every franchise player, why is every star player getting injured right now? Yes, they play an unrivaled, they play overseas, so they're tired, their bodies are fatigued, so they're more prone to injuries. But what else impacts female athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done some research.
And here we go into Kate's got questions.
I do have questions.
I'll just go get a snack while you go through this.
This was this week's bugaboo, I guess. I was really interested in trying to understand what's going on with injuries in the W. We see so many injuries and such a high incidence of ACL tears in particular. So this week we saw Sid Colson out with an ACL tear. What a way to celebrate your 36th birthday. So sad. We also saw Ari McDonald out with a broken bone in her left foot, I think. Stewie's out right now. Fee is out right now. Probably not for the rest of the season, but they're benched for the meantime. Paige was out for a while. So it's a tough go right now for a lot of the star players in the league. Oh yeah, and Caitlin Clark, obviously.
Yeah, huge.
The Fever are really struggling. So
whoever has the Fever voodoo doll, can you just give it a break, please?
Yeah, especially for those three players who are all like, I want to see them on the court.
I know.
My goodness. I mean, it's the nice thing is we're getting lots of minutes from Timpson. So
Okay, yeah.
we like Timpson. So I've done my research. I'm going to pull up my phone
Okay.
so that I can make sure that I'm on top of everything. But first of all, the ACL injury disparity. So ACL is a major consistent injury problem for players. We saw it with Cammie Brink in her rookie season in 2024. Nika Mule in her 2024 season also got an ACL tear. Georgia Amore's out with an ACL tear, a lot of rookies with ACL tears. And so the ACL injury disparity is very significant. So women are 3 to 6 times more likely to get ACL injuries than men are. And do you want to know why?
I want to know why.
Okay. So women are more likely to get them because it has to do a lot with physiology. So there's like the hip width to knee width ratio for women is a bit different than men. So physiologically, there's just kind of a different strain on the knee joint and on the ligaments and everything around it. So that is part of what can cause increased incident of ACL injury for women. But beyond that, there's also generally increased injury rate for women, partly due to hormonal influences.
Are we talking our periods?
We're talking our periods. We're talking...
They ruin everything.
I know. We're talking the menstrual cycle.
Right.
So injury risk is significantly higher. And I'm going to get into the studies. I'm going to nerd out a little bit here. So bear with me.
Nerd away.
But injury risk, we believe, spikes during the luteal phase. And the luteal phase is the phase that comes after ovulation, right before your period starts. So we've got 4 phases to the cycle, and we're going to talk heavily about the menstrual phase and the luteal phase. So in the luteal phase, specifically late luteal premenstrual, so right around the time, right before your period comes and right at the beginning of when your period arrives, studies are showing that there's a 5 to 6 times higher injury rate in these phases compared to the menstrual phase, like deep into when you have your period. So right on the cusp of when your period is starting, your body is at higher risk of injury for a range of reasons. It is partly to do with the hormones that are at play. So your progesterone is higher and your estrogen is moderate to high. Plus, you have higher hormones like relaxin, which I didn't even know was a hormone.
It sounds like a drug.
Relaxin. So it can increase ligament laxity.
Right.
So your ligaments are not as tight and they're not doing their job quite as well. So it makes you a bit more, makes all of that joint stuff a bit more mobile when the ligaments are not kind of holding everything in. It's my understanding of it. I'm not a physiologist, doctor, whatever. It can also impair neuromuscular control. So that means that we actually can reduce our coordination as we head into our period. So studies have found that soccer players, there's a lot of research into soccer players and female soccer players, and a lot of this is starting to expand into basketball. So some of the studies I'm going to talk about have to do with soccer. But women report decreased coordination in those days leading up to their periods in that luteal phase, late luteal, early menstrual phase. And so that causes issues for neuromuscular control and increases fatigue. Also, the late luteal phase can add inflammatory changes. So that late luteal phase, you're more tired and you're less coordinated. Mm-hmm. And so that has to do with the hormones. So there's a change in what happens in our body in that phase. And so there's anecdotal evidence for this with Megan Rapinoe, who is, of course, very famous soccer player, women's soccer player, connected with Sue Bird. We love seeing them together. They're at the Storm games a ton. So Megan Rapinoe tore her ACL not once, not twice, 3 times during her professional soccer career. And what she said in a podcast is that injury happened each time right at the beginning of her menstrual cycle. So that's that same late luteal, early menstrual phase. So the hormones are up, the coordination is down, the fatigue is up. It's a bad time. So there's anecdotal evidence as well as increasing research evidence to show that that is the time of the month when we are most likely to injure ourselves. So I'm just going to quickly talk about the studies because there is some research into this, and the most recent studies are coming from 2024 and 2025.
Wow, that's so recent.
I know, super recent. So this has been studied.
Why just now?
No, so there are some studies going back to the 90s.
Okay.
But some of the most promising research is really happening right now.
Okay,
so
got
that's
it.
what I'm going to focus on specifically. If you're interested in learning more, there's a Barlow et al. Study from 2024 focusing on the English Women's Super League, tracking 3 seasons of players. And in the late luteal phase, women were 6 times higher incident of muscle injury risk, and early luteal was 5 times higher injury risk. That whole luteal phase, it's even worse getting up to your period, but that whole last week, basically when you're PMSing, it's a bad time for injury risk. And so the other study is called the Fort Vadmerhege et al. 2025. So this is a active recent study with elite Spanish youth athletes. And I believe that this is cross sport. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is not just soccer. And again, significantly higher joint and ligament injuries during luteal phases. So you want to chat prevention?
Let's talk about prevention and also optimization.
Yeah.
What are we doing about it?
How do we reduce this risk? How do we protect our athletes and so on? So one of the most effective things that can be done is obviously with consent. Players track their periods and share that information with the team. There are coaches that focus on player rehab and training and what have you, especially training coaches. It is very valuable to know where your players are at in their cycle. So tracking really closely to understand when those players head into luteal phase, changing how they're trained. Ways to help prevent. Of course, menstrual tracking, I know we talked about that a little bit, but it can help identify if someone is in a high risk phase. So if someone's in a high risk phase, it means that they should probably anticipate the risk of injury and also anticipate potential performance dips. So plan accordingly. So the Chelsea FC women in England became the first club to tailor training players' cycles to enhance performance and reduce injury rates. What this looks like is changing the load and intensity of the training, unsurprisingly. So if you're in that high risk window, you would want to shift to lower impact and more technical work. So you're not going to be really working on going full balls to the wall, for lack of a better word, maximizing your output.
Right.
There is a time for that. And we're talking the follicular part of your cycle, which is just before ovulation. It's after your period. You're feeling like you're riding high. You've got all the energy in the world. That is when you can really go all in on the physical, really pushing the limits of what you can do training wise. But what you don't want to do is do that during the luteal phase. So during the luteal phase, you really want to focus on periodizing around the period, reducing the load, focusing on technical skill during that period. So neuromuscular training, some strength conditioning, those are really important to do during the luteal phase. There's also cycle long training that can be done to really focus on things like your proprioception, your strength training, focusing on landing really well. So we know that our ballers, these girls, are landing constantly. They land on their ankles hard, they land on their knees, they land on their butts. But the pressure on those joints, you actually have to learn how to land well so that you don't hurt yourself.
Right.
So that's a big part of it. Cycle long training, but really when you're in that luteal phase, reducing the vigorousness of the exercise and focusing on skill, on precision, strength training, et cetera, et cetera. Also, some studies are recommending other kinds of movement during that period, even things like yoga or other more low impact activities to really just give the body a break. Lots more sleep. So during the luteal phase, we sleep worse. And so really focusing on strength as part of that conditioning period. And finally, nutritional adjustments.
Right.
So a different kind of balance of vitamins during the luteal phase can also help. So as our hormones kind of go up and down, it can be really helpful to modify the foods you're getting, especially foods that are high in anti-inflammatories, like rich in omega-3s and antioxidants, because as we talked about earlier, it's a high inflammatory part of the cycle.
So I hear you talking about hormones. So how does birth control play a role here?
Yeah, that's such a good question because it actually does play a really big role. And this is something where you obviously want to be very careful. No athlete should be forced to take birth control if they don't want to. But what they do find is that athletes who are on hormonal birth control, so we're talking oral contraception, IUDs, the thing that goes in your arm, things that are actually delivering hormones into your body help to make those phases smaller. So they kind of lower the peaks and raise up the valleys of that hormonal cycle. And we actually see that there's a decreased risk of injury for players who are on hormonal birth control. You know, and birth control is very clearly used by many, many people. It is known to be safe and effective as contraception, but there are plenty of people who don't want to take contraception.
Of course.
And so if you are not interested
Your body, your choice.
Exactly. In hormonal birth control, then there are other ways to work around it. But we do find that players who are on birth control see a significant reduction in injury risk during those periods.
Wow.
So that's the deep dive.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much this whole time. How do I optimize my body as a podcaster who just talks about sports and watches sports, but does none of the sport?
Yeah, I think it is a good reminder that these kinds of regimens that professional athletes are on are not necessarily things that we need to do as people kicking around or working from home.
Quick disclaimer,
podcasting.
don't do this at home.
You don't need to do this at home, but if you are a professional athlete and you're trying to figure out how to reduce your risk of injury, there are a lot of ways.
Talk to a professional, please. Kate's got questions. Kate had answers.
Yeah.
We grew up in the 90s, okay? So, and I was a huge athlete. I loved sports, which is why I have this podcast. But I also grew up on sports movies, and they had a huge impact on me as a kid, right? I still can probably quote them word for word. I know that I sound old when I say this, but they don't make kids sports movies like they used to, like they did in the 90s.
No, the 90s was peak children's sports movies. Yeah. Absolutely, for sure. Can I also quickly say that I feel like as millennials, we were really delivered peak entertainment.
Yeah.
And we have been for our whole life because our teen movies were the
best teen movies.
Kids movies were the best kids movies. We had The Lion King. We had Beauty and the Beast.
Everything. And I just feel like everything now is just a remake of what was great then.
Exactly. You can't remake Y2K. I'm so sorry.
That's a great thing about being old is that everything was done before. It was a great time.
We had a great childhood.
What we're going to do is rank our favorite sports movies in the category of kids and teens. And we talked about this because we can do the universe of sports movies, but they're inherently different from being kids movies and adult movies. Adult movies, bigger stakes, different plots, and just so much more serious and not as fun, to be honest with you.
So many more
so
movies
many serious adult things.
Fighting.
I'm eating candy and I just want to talk about fun stuff. Yeah. And I want to take a road trip down memory lane, but we'll do a sports movie adult category later on.
I look forward to it.
And yeah, you got to guess that Love and Basketball is on that list.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start with number 5. And this is your pick. So what is it?
Angels in the Outfield.
So why Angels in the Outfield?
So Angels in the Outfield was one of my sports movies that I really enjoyed. It's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I feel has been a beacon of millennial crushes since I was a little child. Do you know what I mean? And it just was a really sweet story. The religious undertones nowadays feel a little unnecessary, but it was just a sports movie is always going to be like the team sucks and then it gets good. But there was just something about the kind of bringing together of the family and the inspiring baseball, and I learned about a town called Anaheim, California. So it was great. I loved it.
So sweet. It's so heartwarming too. It's a great family film.
Absolutely.
Total classic. And number 4, and we both agreed on this, but She's the Man.
Yes, this one is bordering on teen, obviously.
I think it's full teen.
Okay, it's fully a teen movie, but my God, do I love this movie. I could quote this movie forever. I find it so funny. It is peak Amanda Bynes.
It is peak Amanda Bynes at her best. For me, it was a reflection of real life where in order for a female or women athlete to be taken seriously is that they had to break into a male sports league of some sort or in a male sports world. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's what Amanda Bynes does. And she does it by dressing up as her brother Sebastian. And she goes and she becomes roommates with the hottest guy on earth, young Channing Tatum. And she teaches him how to block a bloody nose with a tampon, which is a very memorable scene.
There are
so many memorable scenes that people are still dressing up as her for Halloween to this day.
Yeah, people quote it forever. So it is one of my favorite Shakespeare adaptations.
Let's watch it after this.
I think maybe we should. I love a well done Shakespeare adaptation.
Well, which one was it off
this
there?
One is based on Twelfth Night.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So 12th Night involves shipwrecks, but the characters' names are the same. It's Viola, it's Sebastian, it's Count Orsino.
Right.
But his name is Duke Orsino, I think.
Duke Orsino,
maybe
yeah.
His name is Duke Orsino in the play. But anyway, it's Orsino. All of this it is so true to the play while also being delightful, and you watch it and you don't feel like you're watching a Shakespeare remake, and I just am so here for an adaptation.
It was the beauty of Amanda Bynes. Okay, number 3. This is one of my favorite ones, and I was 10 years old when it came out, but Little Giants. I love Little Giants. You haven't seen Little Giants.
I don't think I've seen Little Giants.
We're
so
going to put it on the list. So Little Giants actually is more of a story between, and the actor was in Modern Family, and I forget his name right now, but he was Al Bundy in Married with Children.
Great.
So number 3 goes to Little Giants, which was actually one of my favorite films growing up because it was a rebellious little girl who was an incredible football player and she wanted to be taken seriously. And her father was played by Rick Moranis, this little dweeby guy with glasses, and his brother was played by
Al Bundy.
So anyways, the brothers have this huge rivalry because basically Uncle, which is the character played by Al Bundy, I'm just going to call it Al Bundy. Al Bundy doesn't put the daughter on his team, right? At all. And the dad
Sexism.
gets upset and he goes off and he starts his own football team with a ragtag group of kids in the neighborhood.
We love a ragtag group.
We love a ragtag group of neighborhood children. And they go on to play each other. I'm not going to tell you how it ends or anything like that. But I loved it because I saw myself in the character because she was a huge tomboy and she had a crush on the heartthrob of that generation, Devon Sawa, a.k.a. Casper. I also had a huge crush on my Devon Sawa, who I will not name right now. But I just saw myself in her and I really loved the film.
Amazing.
I'm
I
having
think we're seeing a
flashbacks.
trend. We're loving the movies where the girls get an opportunity to be on the same playing field, to level the playing field, to make a sports story.
Yeah, we're
And
leveling
also, you
the
know
playing
what?
field.
I love any kind of movie about a ragtag team of misfits. It's the best movie.
So if you haven't seen Little Giants, I recommend you see it. Great film. So number 2 on the list is The Mighty Ducks. The whole series, actually, not just 1 or D2, but I will say D2 was the best. And again, due to unfortunate events, the coach has to come and put together a ragtag group of children around the neighborhood for a hockey team. And they go on to do amazing things. But I really loved it because we saw young Joshua Jackson
Amazing.
come in and take the lead role, his first lead role, actually. And Emilio Estevez is the coach, and they just dominate. And it was just so fun to watch. And I loved hockey, being a Canadian kid. It was really cool to see a hockey film come out of Disney.
You know what I think is interesting about our love of a ragtag group of misfits is that what we're seeing is that there is strength in diversity.
There is strength in diversity. And also, maybe I'm also the ragtag group of neighborhood kids.
We are a ragtag group of podcasters, the two of us, because I grew up not knowing anything about sports.
And I grew up playing sports.
That is ragtag misfit.
There you go. And the number 1 film in the sports movies in the kids and teen category goes to... We have to make our own sound effects because we can't afford them right now.
It's episode 3. We'll get there.
The Sandlot!
Woo, woo, woo,
Bum, bum, bum. The Hambino.
woo. You're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah, it goes without saying, The Sandlot is one of the best kids' sports movies of all time. And I would even go as far as saying the best sports movies of all time.
Would you go so far as saying one of the best kids movies of all time?
No, because there's a lot out there.
I was trying to hype up The Sandlot, but okay, great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I never had seen The Sandlot as a kid, and
No.
I watched it with you for the first time
You did.
as an adult.
And you loved it.
I did love it.
You loved it. You loved Benjamin Rodriguez. You loved his PF Flyers. You loved the Great Hambino. You loved Smalls and his fish hat. Wendy Peppercorn. In retrospect, the kid with the glasses should have not pretended to drown to kiss Wendy Peppercorn. That was wrong.
Yeah. Yes. That would nowadays be considered
Frowned
sexual
upon.
misconduct.
Even so, still an incredible film. And I love that the dog was, I know, in the film. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but I'm assuming that if you're watching this podcast, you've seen The Sandlot. Anyways, it's so quotable. It's so nostalgic. It's just one of the best films in movie making history.
That is some high praise. So if you have not seen The Sandlot, you should probably
You
go
should
and
go see it. And that is our list.
Amazing. That was so fun. I loved our little rundown of the top kids sports movies. I'm really curious to know. So like as someone who did not grow up watching a ton of sports movies, I want to know what our audience's top kids sports movies are.
Drop
So,
it in
like,
the comments.
Were you an Air Bud person? Were you an HE double hockey sticks person? What was your children's sports movie that you loved? And we're talking like pitched at age 13 and under, I would say. That's a good range. From the GSV's Purple Egg to deadline trades, the injuries rocking the W, and our Sports Movie Hall of Fame, Kids Edition. We've covered the sweet, the sour, and everything in between. Be sure to subscribe and drop your favorite sports movie in the comments. Until next time, keep your takes sweet and your games even sweeter.
Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye.